Hey everyone, welcome back to Getaway Crochet. Happy Monday. I hope you guys had a wonderful weekend and I hope you were able to get away and do some crocheting this weekend. I certainly was able to get some crocheting done. And in a few minutes, I'm going to show you the stuff that I was able to get finished, the things I am almost done with, and some things that I've been working on. So today's video is just kind of, hey, checking back in. It's been a few days since my last video. I'm feeling pretty much back to my normal self, which is great. Not so random. I'm not distracted by the goings on outside. I was able to get out of the house this weekend. It's been beautiful. It's been in the 30s. Today was, I think, 42 degrees. I went and got coffee today, so other than that, I just pretty much stayed home. I was having some bad anxiety this morning, so didn't really want to be around people today, which is totally fine. I'm cool with being around all you guys, though. So anyway, like I said, today is Monday. Tomorrow's back to work. That's probably why I had anxiety this morning. I was initially planning on going back today, but due to my panic attack this morning in the shower, that did not happen. But I'm going back tomorrow. So, and read like 500 emails. I literally looked at my email today to see all my unread emails, and I have like 462 unread emails from the last 2 weeks. I'm gonna be busy. I mean, everybody answers the emails, so I mean, that's probably the reason why I have so many, but I was like, oh, that's a lot of emails. So, anyway, just preparing myself for tomorrow. Kind of a chill night. Got my water, gotta stay hydrated. So let's get right into what I have gotten finished. So, my husband is crawling across the floor. Trying to avoid the camera, apparently. I was like, what is that noise? And I saw the dog's like in like a little, I don't know, a frenzy over there. Okay. Bye. Anyway, okay. That was amusing. Okay, so let's start with what I have gotten done. I was able to get finished, so Saturday night I was able to finish my lap gown. So I will show you that right now. Preview. Look at those colors. Okay, so it's probably not all gonna fit in the picture. But, oh, wrong way. Okay, now this chair's in the way. Alright. What do you guys think? Isn't this turned out so well? I mean, it's not as big as I originally wanted it to be, but, you know, it's okay. It worked out. So you can see where I actually turned my rows, because it gives it just a little bit of a, you can just barely tell, but I mean, I'm a perfectionist and I can tell. It doesn't bother me though. Kind of adds to it, kind of gives it some character. So if you want that on the bottom so you don't see it, then we'll just do it like that. How about that? But it turned out so well. I am so excited to use this. I have it on the back of my chair. It's been pretty warm in the house recently, so I haven't needed. But I mean, look at these colors. Look at how they worked up. Isn't that just gorgeous? Oh my god, I'm so in love with this blanket. I can't wait to make more. Logo, what are you doing? Okay. Alright, back to my little spot here. So I apologize if you see my husky jumping around in the background. He's probably going to do that. He's in a playful mood right now, so it's probably going to be just dashing back and forth or asking me to throw a ball for him, which it is what it is. So, My husband's crawling through the house so as to avoid the camera. My dogs are jumping around. I'm like completely in oblivion. I'm like, what is going on behind me? Oh my goodness. Okay, so anyway, finished blanket, project number 1. I am so proud of myself. I got that done. I got out of my little crochet funk. Now, my other work in progress that I had wanted to get done was my Fiesta Siesta blanket. Now, I measured it today, which you can probably see a little bit in the back there. I measured it just a little bit ago, and I have 4 inches left to go, and then it's 40 by 60. It does fit over me completely right now, from my neck to my feet, but I want to make it the 40 by 60. So I'm going to go get that. It's not, obviously, I don't think it's going to fit in the picture. I'll try to stay back as much as I can to get it all in the picture. But I have probably 6 more rows to do. And I literally just finished a skein. And again, I don't remember how many skeins I used. I think I'm at 5 or 6 right now, to be honest. And I have 3 more on my shelf. And then the one that was on my desk that I just started going into this last row, so I'm not even going to use a whole bunch of it. And then I'll have 3 skeins, probably 3.5 skeins left to make something else with. So I'm going to go get that now. Oh yes, and you can see my dogs in the background. What happened, Loco? You peed her out? This is Maxie. Maxie, and then Loco. Yes, I know you're crazy. Crazy dogs. Okay. Alright guys, here it is. This is my blanket so far. Like I said, I have probably 6 rows, 4 inches left to go. Maybe 5 rows, depending. But as you can see, I literally just changed yarn colors or just tied in a new skein. I'm not too, like if I was making this for somebody else, I would obviously tie in skeins a little bit neater than what I'm doing right now. But it's for me, and I don't particularly care how I tie in my skeins. I just weave them in through so you can't tell anyway, and it doesn't bother me. I like that homemade look, so that, the only thing I don't like is weaving in ends, but look at these colors. This is Favorite Stripe, Red Heart Super Saver. If you are new to my channel, this is Jumbo Stripes, and then it's Favorite Stripe. As you can see, look at those colors. This blanket was inspired by Llama Mama Kayla's. She had a ripple afghan that she was doing, and I love the colors, and it made me think of this, just because I don't have, she was using Premier's yarn, and I didn't have access to it at the time, and I loved this one more. So alright, my setup obviously is not perfect, but I know you guys are honestly here for the crochet vibes, and you're not here to look at my setup, and sorry about the close-ups of my back and stuff when I'm having to bend over and get stuff. I'm probably going to end up putting my camera maybe on the corner of my monitor, because the tripod that it's on, it's not really holding the camera up anymore. Literally, the camera just falls over randomly. So I'm going to have to see what I can do about that, but I'm not too worried about that at the moment, as you can tell. So we're almost done with the Fiesta Siesta blanket. Like I said, we're not even going to use half a skein of yarn, I don't think. About 5 or 6 rows left, 4 inches, according to my calculations, with the tape measure to make it a 40 by 60. Also, I wanted to show you, I have a pretty clean desk right now, but I'm still using this little, I call it like a little caddy. I got this at the Dollar Tree for $1.25. I'm using it, it's kind of like my roaming work in progress little caddy. So right now I have my yarn scissor, which specifically I have for crochet projects. I have 3 current hooks that I'm using for different things. 2 of them are 5.5, which you probably can't see. There we go. Kind of, a little bit. Maybe not. Okay. Well, anyway, that's a 5.5. Then I have a 6 as well for my Fiesta Siesta blanket, and another 5.5. And then I also have 1 yarn needle inside this little doohickey thing, this little thing. These are some paper clips my husband brought home from work when they were moving offices, and I also have my tape measure in there, along with a few started granny squares for different things. Other than that, that's pretty much it. That way I know where all of my stuff for my different projects that I'm currently working on is. I always have a 5.5 I'm using for something. I always have a scissor, I always have a yarn needle, and because I don't want to keep looking around my desk for all these things, because my desk, if you're like me, your desk gets piled up with stuff too, like yarn projects, anniversary gifts, books, pens, things, lots of yarn. And so it's semi-clean right now, because I've actually been using up yarn to finish stuff, so to make my rainbow blanket here, my lap gown, the yarn is now off my desk for that. I used up the yarn that was on my desk for my Fiesta Siesta blanket. I do have a lot of coaster samples from when I did tutorials on my desk, so I have to find a place for. And then some works in progress I gotta do for donations. But okay, so the other topic I wanted to talk about today was I got bit by the new yarn, the granny square yarn. Okay, I got bit by the bug for the granny square yarn. Now, I had originally told myself I wasn't gonna jump on any bandwagons. I wasn't gonna get into the whole granny square yarn thing. You know, because I've seen a lot of people using it, and I've seen mixed reviews, like, yes, it works, no, it doesn't work, it kind of works, it doesn't, so it's like, I'm not going to go there, I'm just going to do granny squares the way I want to do them, not going to, Well, yesterday I was watching a new channel, and this person had done granny squares using the granny square yarn. Now, if you're not familiar with the granny square yarn, it is Yarnspirations Red Heart, literally called granny square yarn. And as you can see, I've been busy using it. So I bought this yesterday afternoon. I can only afford 1 skein, so that's all I got. My husband picked the color. He said that it was a warm, cozy color, which it is. I wouldn't have honestly picked it as a initial color, but I'm glad I did. This color is called Black Mood Cherry, as you can see. Black Moody Cherry, excuse me. It says 1 ball equals 14 granny squares, if you can see that. Hook size, so medium 4. The hook size they recommend is a 5.5, which is perfect. That's what I used. It's recommending 5mm knitting needles, and you can make a granny square that is 6 by 6 inches. So I believe that's like a 5-row granny square. Okay, so it says that you don't need to switch color, you can just keep going. Each row is going to create a new color. Well, let's see. I tried it out last night. Let's see if that actually did happen. Alright, so my first granny square with this, I have a whole stack of things I was working on last night, which I will get to here in a second. Alright, my first granny square, yes, it did work. This was my first one. As you can see, I literally had I had a little bit. No, I have a tighter tension. So, and I honestly, I tried it the way I normally do granny squares, which is chain 4 to make a magic circle, or to make a ring. Chain 3, that counts as the first double chain. 2 chain spaces in the corners, no chains in between. Now, when I tried it that way, I had way too much going over into the next row. I have a little bit here. As you can tell, it's not perfect. So it works to an extent. When I first tried it the way I like to do granny squares, it did not work. I had like, I don't know, three double crochets, or a shell that actually worked into it, the other row, which I was not happy with. So I pulled it back. I added a chain in between, which I don't add chains in between my granny square, my shells. But I added a chain in between to see if that would work, and it worked better. Still wasn't perfect. But anyway, this is what I got. Not perfect, but fairly worked. It worked up fairly well. Did I have to adjust my tension? Yes. So I started to make my second one. And so what happened was, when I tied off, I literally barely had enough black, which you can't really tell what's black and what's blue there. You can kind of tell a little bit. Okay, so as you can tell, I literally just ran out of black when I was using my slip stitch into the last chain, and it went into the blue. Now, what I noticed when I started making my second square, which I ended up actually rolling into a ball and cutting kind of out and separating from the rest of the ball, and I will explain why in a second. So with this yarn, I have found, through many granny squares that I made last night, you have to use every single inch of the color. Now, if you have a little, like for me, when I had the end, my last stitch was in blue, I did not have enough to start the next granny square. So the center, which was supposed to be all blue, turned out 3 blue and 1 yellow, and then it bled into the yellow, which then started the red and the yellow on the row that's supposed to be yellow, and it kept going. So because I had used a little extra blue for my previous square, the square that I had started wasn't adding up correctly. So you have to, like, the way I crochet, my tension, with one stitch in between the shells, 5.5 millimeter hook, it did not work up perfectly. You had to use literally every inch of the color for that specific row, otherwise it's not going to work up. Now, like I said, I cut, so because I started with, I had a little bit of blue on this one where I took that and I ended it where the black ends and the blue starts again, and I cut that all off. So I literally started where the blue started for my next one, and that worked a lot better, as you can tell. Not so much, I didn't have as much like colors going into the next row as I did previously. So two worked up perfectly, but then again I ran into the same problem. I literally ran out of black right at the very end, didn't have enough to tie off, honestly. And then, so I would have had to use some of the blue again. So does it work? Yes, it does. Is it perfect? No, it's not. But you just can't, honestly, like, this is not a bad yarn. Okay, I'm not bashing this yarn at all. This is a good yarn. I love this concept. I love the colors that they have come out with. The only problem that I have is when I do granny squares, I don't like to pay attention to what I'm doing. If my tension varies, whoop-de-freaking do. I don't want to think when I'm doing granny squares. And this yarn makes you have to think, because if your tension's too loose, your colors aren't going to line up right. If you use a little bit more, if you use all your black and start a little bit on your blue with the previous granny square, your next granny square isn't going to work out correctly. It's just, it can't be perfect for everybody. And what I mean by that is everybody crochets differently. There's not one person that crochets the same way as another person. The tension's always going to vary. So, to be honest, they can't, like, when somebody creates, this is a great concept, great idea, and for some people's crochet, it works perfectly, which is great. That's exciting. I mean, for my crocheting, it doesn't work perfectly, and it bothers me enough to where I don't want to do it. Like the way that the color's not just perfect. Now, if that doesn't bother you, then that's great. But I'm a perfectionist, and a little bit too much, like the little bit that's not the right one. I made way too many things last night. So like the little bit that kind of came over into the red row there from the yellow, that doesn't really bother me. Same with the maroon into the bright red. That doesn't bother me majorly, but I don't want to have to think about my tension. I don't want to have to think about the yarn as much as I do when I'm focusing on trying to get each row a different color to work up as it's supposed to. So for me, I will not, I'm not going to be using it to make granny squares that look like they're supposed to, that look like is intended. Okay? Now, that's nothing against the yarn. That's nothing against you if you like the granny square yarn. I think it's a great idea. It's a wonderful concept. The colors are great. It's such a cool concept, to be honest. I mean, the fact that that they got it so close to, like so close, not perfect, but so close. I mean, you can't get it perfect, to be honest, because everybody crochets differently. So the fact that they got it the way they did, that's impressive. Good for them. That's awesome. I just don't want to have to think that much about my yarn, about, maybe the color dye didn't go as far as it was supposed to. Maybe my tension's a little bit looser. I have to rip it back and tighten up my tension so my colors line up perfectly, which is pretty much why I don't do anything with color pooling either, because that's too much work to tighten your tension, to switch size hooks. It's just, if I'm going to crochet, I want to crochet. I'm not going to like stop and think about, oh my gosh, okay, so now I have to change hooks in the middle of this, or I have to, tighten up the tension. Okay, whatever. Sometimes you have to tighten your tension. I get it, but it's too much. When I'm making a granny square, I don't want to think. I just want to do, and I want to watch the show. I want to do other things while I'm crocheting my granny square. And this, I have to think, because I want it to look great. I want it to look as it's supposed to, and if I don't pay attention to what I'm doing, it's not going to do that. So, this yarn, not for me making granny squares. However, I am going to buy this yarn because you don't have to make granny squares. You don't just have to make granny squares with this yarn. This is a great concept. This gives me great ideas for other things. The colors, I love the colors in all of the colorways that it comes in. Oh my god, I love them all. So, what I decided to do was work up a sample of a bunch of stitches that I like to use. Now, I will show you these. And then I'm also going to tell you, so initially what I was going to do, I told my husband, because he loved these colors, I told him, if this works up the way it's intended to, and it looks good, I'm going to make you a blanket with this stuff. Now, needless to say, it did to an extent. However, I did tell him that I can make him these specific colors in this pattern, but it's not going to be using this yarn. I'm going to use the colors in this yarn to make the squares, but make them the way that I want to make them. So, and I'm going to change color every row, like I would normally without this yarn. So it's great inspiration for that. Another thing is that, like I mentioned, you don't have to use it to make granny squares. Now, let me just show you an example. So I made 2 of these granny squares that worked up okay. They worked up fine, which is great. Then I made one where I just crocheted the way that I normally crochet, no spaces in between. No, like I said, these have spaces in between them. I don't like spaces in between my shells, so we don't normally do that. So I crocheted, now this is after the second granny square I made. This, what else did I do first? I'm trying to remember if I did something else first. I feel like I made something else first, but I can't remember. Anyway, so I made just a granny square the way that I would normally make it. Now, did the colors line up? No, they didn't. I didn't expect them to. Now, do I like this? Yes, I do. Why? Because the colors are wonderful. You can see all the colors. The blue, the black, the yellow, the maroon, the red. Okay, you can see all the colors. And it still looks gorgeous. The way that the color is put together. It still looks gorgeous. So then, well, after doing that, I thought, okay, well, what's the color pattern going to look like if I try this stitch, or I try this stitch, okay? So this is what a random granny square, not focusing on tension, making sure colors stay in certain rows, that kind of thing, okay? just kind of going with what the yarn was, what my hands were doing, and how the yarn was just going. I was just going with the way it was going. So that is that one. Then I did a, it's kind of curled on the one end, sorry. I did a double crochet swatch here. Look at that corner. Look how straight that corner is. So proud of myself. Okay, so I actually had, so when I learned double crochet, I obviously learned it a certain way, which I wouldn't say it's the correct way necessarily. It was correct to me at the time. You can do it that way. I do have a tutorial on the way that I learned it. However, it's not the way I like. And I explained that in the tutorial. I don't like it because the corners look wonky. And why? Because they kind of are. And I'm going to actually do a different, after doing this swatch, it made me want to do another tutorial on the double crochet in the new way that I just did it last night, to make these corners nice and straight. So this is, if it's just going to be back and forth, look at those colors, how they kind of pool together and different, they're kind of blocked, but I like, it's like stairs. I kind of like how it goes. Now this is a short block, so like if you're going to make a scarf and you're going to go back and forth up and down like that, this is how it's going to look. If you're going to make a blanket, obviously the blocks are going to be a lot longer. They're not going to be so, stack on top of each other necessarily, but I thought that looked pretty cool. So you can do so much with this yarn. It doesn't just need to be for granny squares if the way that the yarn works up while you're doing granny squares bothers you. Alright, so then there's that. So then I thought to myself, okay, well let's try, what other patterns do I like to use for blankets and different things? So corner to corner has always been a favorite of mine. So I thought this ought to look really nice in a corner to corner blanket with the stripes going diagonally, right? It did. Look at that. Look at that. Ignore my ends. I haven't weaved in all the ends on my stuff and I don't plan to. I just worked these up really quick. So I thought this was just so pretty. This yarn works perfectly for corner to corner. I love how it, again, the bigger your blanket, the longer your stripes are going to be, the more spread out they're going to be, that kind of thing. But like, I'm just doing this to show you that it doesn't need to be specifically for granny squares if the way you do granny squares doesn't work with how the yarn is meant, like how the yarn is patterned in the skein. It's supposed to look like this. According to the directions, according to the picture, this is what it's intended to do. Not everybody's granny square is going to make that happen, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. If you can do that and that's what you want to do, that's wonderful. I love that idea that you never have to change color. You can use the same skein. That's a great idea. Does it work for me? It doesn't work for me personally because I don't want to have to think that much. So we're trying a lot of other things with this yarn. So anyway, corner to corner example. Then this afternoon, when I was feeling a little bit better, I decided to do a square that is like a solid double crochet square. So here it is. Here's my square. I don't know if I'm a huge fan of the way that this works up. I mean, the colors are obviously gorgeous, but I have a little issue with how it connects, and that's just my perfectionistic tendencies. Now I can adjust that a little bit, but the color is still going to look a little blocky like that. So I'm probably not going to use this kind of square with this yarn. So I'm probably not going to crochet this square using this yarn. This type of square anyway, into a blanket or anything like that. So, but it's all, I mean, I should do this with all the yarn I buy, just see what I can, different examples of things that I can work up and see what looks the best before I even do a project. But anyway, not a fan of that one, but that's okay. That's why we did this. And then obviously one of my favorites, as you guys know, is the chevron stitch. So I love how that came together as well. Kind of reminds me of my Fiesta Siesta blanket a little bit. So yes, we could use it with that. So the only one I probably wouldn't recommend using, and if personal preference completely, okay guys, personal preference, not for me, personal preference, I don't plan on using this type of a square with these colors or with this type of yarn. With any other yarn, sure, I can do that, maybe. Again, I don't know. I've never tried it with any other yarn, to be honest. This is actually the first time I've ever made a square like this, so that could have something to do with it too. But not a fan of how this yarn worked up with this type of square. So, other than that though, the granny squares work. Yes, they do. I just have to really pay attention to what I'm doing. Keep an eye on my tension. Keep an eye on my yarn. Probably change different things, and it's just more work than I want to put into it, which is totally fine. Each his own. You do you, I will do me, and that's what makes this a wonderful community. Hey, look, I'm a poet and I don't even know it. Sorry. Okay, so anyway, do I love this yarn? Yes, it's a great yarn. Oops, have it upside down. Do I want to make granny squares with it? No. I'm going to probably use the colors that they suggest the granny squares, though, to make granny squares, but do it switching colors, not with this skeins of yarn. I'm going to buy these skeins of yarn, but it's going to be to make something else. It's not going to be to make granny squares like this is intended to. Again, nothing against this yarn if you do like it for that. It's a great concept. I love the colors. I love the idea. I just don't want to think that much when I'm doing granny squares because granny squares are a mindless project for me, and I want to keep it that way. I don't want to ruin granny squares for myself by putting so much pressure on color changes and tension and all these things. So that is my yarn review. Would I recommend this yarn? Yes. Would I recommend trying this yarn? Absolutely. Give it a shot. Try different ways. See what works for you guys. If you find that you don't like how it looks in a granny square, try something else. Try a chevron. Try double crochet. Try a random granny square. Maybe you like that, how it works up better like that. But I recommend it, yes. I have yarn everywhere right now. Sorry, distracted. Anyway, yes, I recommend this yarn. I'm not using it for its intended purposes. I'm going to use it for something else. That is my little granny square red heart yarn review. I finally got on the bandwagon, but then again, I didn't, just because it's just not me. I don't want to think that much. So anyway, there's that. I am going to go buy more once I have money. I'm going to buy more and do a different project with it. I also have a bunch of, when I was at the store yesterday, I got to see new yarns at Joann's that I'm going to showcase on the show. And I'm going to work up in different things to show you guys how they work, the colors, different things. I fell in love with quite a few of them that I want to try. I obviously am so glad. I told my husband yesterday, he drove me over there. Again, because, my license is expired and I want to drive legally as much as I can. Tomorrow I will not be driving legally. I will be driving to work illegally without a license. But that's okay, because Wednesday I get to renew my driver's license. So, it's fine. Anyway, back on topic here. So, we went to Joann's yesterday afternoon. And I found this skein. I knew what I wanted. I had enough for one. I really wanted to get a lot more, but I didn't. I kept telling myself, just try it out first. You don't even know if you're going to like it. You don't know how it's going to work up, that kind of thing. So I had to keep telling myself that before I kept buying different colors, which is fine. And then I thought to myself, well, I'm just going to make a mental note of all the new yarns that they have out, the ones that I want to try that I normally wouldn't try, and there's a ton of them that I am super interested in showcasing different things for on this channel. So I have written those things down. I am not going to tell you what they are right now. That is going to be an upcoming video after I get paid and I can go do a little splurge on yarn and order some online as well. But as far as that, this is what I wanted to share with you guys today. I appreciate you checking in and if you popped in on this channel, thank you for watching my channel. If you liked this video and want to see more content such as this, please hit the like and subscribe buttons below. If you have any requests for yarns, if you guys want to see me try a yarn, let me know in the comments. I am more than willing to do that. Like I said, I do have quite the list of yarns that I'm going to purchase in the near future and showcase on the show and show you how, if I like them, what I'm going to use them for, different things like that, how they work up. I will work them up while I'm talking to you guys or as a tutorial kind of thing. So we will do that together. Again, I still intend on doing this potholder tutorial. I just wanted to pop in and do a quick video because I am feeling more myself, and I was super excited about doing a video about the granny square yarn and what I have found, all the little things that I have found with working up different things with this yarn. So I was super excited to show you guys that, and that's what I want to do today. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. I hope your week goes fast. Tomorrow it's back to work for me. A little anxious, but we can do it. It's gotta happen. I can't just sit at home the rest of my life. And I don't want to either. I go crazy. So back to work tomorrow. I hope you guys have a positive day tomorrow. I hope you had a positive day today. If you are having a kind of a stinky day, you know, it's a yucky day at work, we all have them. Just get away and crochet, guys. Just go out to your car for a break. Okay, bring your crochet with you. Work on a granny square. Heck, if you have this and you can work up granny squares like nobody's business, go work them up in the car on your break. Get away from the world for a little bit, and it totally changes everything. So if I probably won't be taking a whole lot of breaks this week because I'll be catching up on work, but when we get back to a routine where we have enough help in the office and things like that, I'll probably be taking breaks where I crochet a little bit, you know, away from the office, out in my car, that kind of thing. So, but we'll see what happens. Right now we're short-staffed. We don't have time for that kind of thing, so I don't even bring my stuff to work like I used to. So, so that I choose to do it at home. It's my getaway from the world. I'm done with work. I come home. I get into crochet mindset, crochet time. That's my getaway. So, whatever you're doing this week, take some time and do some crochet, getaway and crochet, hence the name of the channel. It's my getaway, my release from the world, my little vacation. But enough about that. I am gonna go. I have to figure out what I'm gonna have for dinner tonight. My husband made his own dinner, which is what he came back up to get a fork, crawling across the floor, which was quite amusing. I thought that was great. I should have turned the camera so you could see it, but I didn't want to embarrass him. So, but anyway, guys, have a wonderful week. I will talk to you very soon, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye!